Mr. Charles Lang, how have you and Mia been?
Yeah, we're good, thanks, mate. Just got back from Paris, which is nice. Went to the Olympics. Um, so yeah, there was no itchy knees or anything like that before anyone makes any jokes. So yeah, we'll stay away from that. And then yeah, we had a nice time. Um, and yeah, Mia's just finished her final accountancy exam, so she's becoming training to be a qualified accountant, and I'm just cracking on, selling sweets to the worlds, and just having fun. So yeah, mate, can't really
Rock and roll,
complain.
mate.
Yeah,
Rock and roll. Don't
yeah,
underestimate that, bro.
yeah,
So I'll talk a bit about the Olympics in Paris, mate. Is the Olympic summit you've always been into? Is it what opportunity did you get to go and what did you go and see?
yeah. I guess like everyone, right? When you're at home, when you're a kid, like over summer, every 4 years, and there'd be like just wall to wall sport on for 2 weeks on the BBC. You can't really beat it. And then like, yeah, I was really lucky. I went to 2012 with my dad, brother, and Nick, and a couple of members of my family. So like when I was like obviously old enough and earning enough cash, I was like, right, I'm gonna go. So like a couple of years ago, just joined the ballot, got tickets to the women's sevens final day, which was pretty good, other than GB getting beat by China. And
Sorry to
then
interrupt. So you have to actually go into a ballot, so you're not guaranteed tickets, no.
you can go into a ballot, and then you can get like you go into a ballot and you can pretty much choose or like put a bid in for like your preference and it comes out. So they'll get priority, or you can do it later, and like you can still buy tickets on the day, but they're probably just for like events you wouldn't necessarily want to go to or whatever. But yeah, so then Mia and I went to the bronze medal match in the tennis for the women, and saw the men's semi-final as well, which was pretty mega.
Yeah,
And we just had a couple of days in Paris just eating and drinking, which was quite nice. So
so
probably came back a little bit
sounds
heavier.
it.
So
Like,
yeah,
no, that's class, mate. What an experience as well to like do a home one, and then you were quite. I suppose whoever went was fortunate. It was quite local in being in France, mate. So
yeah,
no, good
it
on you.
felt like a home Olympics. To be fair, the amount of Brits and stuff that were there, it
Yeah,
was really good, really nice atmosphere. I mean, I've been fortunate to go to Paris like a couple of times, and it was probably my favorite trip because it had the least amount of French people there. So I had more like had more Brits, Americans like there, so it felt more very much anglicized. So it was quite good.
yeah. Hey, mate. So before we get stuck into your rugby story, few people might know the beginning because they know you know because your brother's already been on. But sure, where you grew up as a kid and who lived at home with you, mate. What's your version of that?
Yeah, my first home was 31 New Barnet, in Widnes. It was probably a new estate back then, and or maybe like 10, 15 years old. And it was me, George, my mum and dad. We lived there till I was about, I think, 4 or 5. And then we moved to Farnworth, moved to Monica Drive. And then that was still the four of us. And then, as people know probably from George's podcast, and then if you know, it was like mum and dad got divorced when I was 6. Um, so yeah, I didn't really have a clue what was going on, to be fair. Um, like obviously when you're that young, you don't really know the impact, do you? So it was probably like perfect timing for me. It hit George a bit more harder because he was obviously more aware, like socially, whereas I was just getting sold the thing of 2 Christmases and um, like just yeah, having 2 homes. So I was like, all right, sound. Um, so yeah, it probably didn't impact me as much. Um, I mean, like it's funny, isn't it? Like when you get older, you speak to your parents a bit more about what actually transpired and stuff like that, and there's, you know, two different stories. So it's probably the truth somewhere in the middle. Um,
Tends
and
to be how it is, mate, doesn't it? Is the
yeah,
murky bit in the middles.
yeah. So like, it was really like even like divorce and stuff like really solid. Um, Saw both parents equally, both made an effort with George and I. Like played rugby. That was probably like the mainstay of like everything. Like good group of friends, stayed at the same school. So yeah, like once we got to school was obviously like St Eddie's, where in Liverpool where you get called a bit of a posh boy and stuff. But I was there
Yeah,
from nursery, so yet again, the divorce didn't impact that whatsoever. So I went from Highfield in Widnes to St Eddie's Nursery, and a couple of people that also went. Um, but yeah, it was just kind of it was really solid being a kid. But home for me is probably the home that you knew me in is like Monica Drive.
yeah,
Like still like when I talk about Widnes being home, like it's like that's like my vision of like
yeah,
Widnes home. Um, so yeah, like that was pretty much it. Farmworth, top of the town, posh boy. So yeah,
yeah.
so it was
So
nice.
you think you being so young, you probably took it in your stride, mate, until you've got a bit older and you understand situations more. And like I'd probably said on George's, I don't remember, but your mum and dad are both great people, been boss with me and lads I know, and been very amicable, mate. They can be in each other's presence to watch us, to celebrate dues with your awards or graduations and stuff, which we'll touch on later. But you think you probably cope with it because of your age, and rugby might have helped with that.
Yeah, definitely. I also think um, when you're that young, as you say, you don't, as I said, you don't really know what's going on. So, um, yeah, it's probably just like ignorance is bliss at that point.
Yeah,
There were a few points, obviously, um, like as we got older, where it becomes like more apparent and stuff like that, um, of like the differences between the different living situations and stuff. Like nothing bad, but like when new partners come into the mix and stuff like that, when you get a bit older, you do get a bit more aware. But for the initial years, it probably didn't phase me as much as George because yeah, ignorance is bliss.
no, very much is, mate. It very much is. So we'll get back to when you first got a ball in your hand, then, mate. And where was it, and how was you introduced to rugby?
I actually played when I was 4 at the Wids. So
Right.
I actually, it's quite funny to say like, even for my age, I've played across the Wids for in the 1900s and the 2000s. I played in 1999 with a group probably like 2 or 3 years older than me, or two actually, because it was Chris Atkins lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, 2 years older than me. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I used to just play tag with them, but that was because came effectively got. I don't really remember, but I remember just being at the Wids because George was playing. Um,
Yeah.
and then played with that team until I was 6, so probably like 2 years. Don't really remember too much back then.
Yeah.
But I remember becoming like getting to like the age of 6, and then Derek Oliver was the coach of Georgia's team, and Derek had a daughter called Sarah, and Sarah wanted to get into coaching and like set up the next team for like the Wids juniors. So I remember going to what's now the Nisa next to Cronton Fish Bar 2, and putting up like signs with her, like walking around like Widnes, putting signs up in newsagents for like getting people to come down.
Yeah.
Um, and then that all started up, and then away it went from there really. So yeah, it was all up at the Wids. Just I remember
It's an early
like
commitment, that, though, mate, walking around with Sarah doing that, because you'd have
yeah,
still been a young lad, innit?
yeah, but I mean like because obviously the families were really close right at that point. So like
Mm.
yeah, and I think I just tagging along, just
As
like
you were told.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, no wrong with that, mate.
So yeah, and that's like probably my first memory, and then all my mates who are now still some of my best mates,
Yeah.
um, joined that team.
Did it take long for it to take off, mate?
Like, I can't really remember too much, but I remember like there being some core lads there now, or lads in it who obviously I'm still friends with now. Like, so I remember playing with like Jeff Cook. Jeff was always big for his age, and I mean that height wise, and I also mean that weight wise. He was a big loader as a lad. You wouldn't think it
I
now,
think it now. Yeah.
no. And then as Aaron Duggan was there, Ben Mercer was there. So yeah, yeah, I guess it took off, and like we had a good core that stuck right through till from under six to under 19s, which I think is probably quite rare now. But
Imagine it is, mate, definitely, especially with like clubs favouriting other clubs to be feeder clubs for them, or like
mm,
clubs dropping a little bit of money here than there. But no, that's a good stint that. So it's you all grew up together really, mate, on and off the field, didn't you? And like you said, you still see them lads today, mate, don't you?
yeah, yeah. So like we all at that point, like obviously you had your mates from primary school, but all mine were in Liverpool.
Mm.
Um, so like probably my mum and dad couldn't be asked in the midst of a divorce driving me to Liverpool to a play date. So it'd be like, go play with your mates from Widnes.
Yeah,
Just fair enough. And yeah, just used to knock about with them. Like you'd train. I can't even remember what days we train now, but like,
yeah,
and then Sunday you'd play a game or go to a festival, and then you'd end up in a pub afterwards in a like playground or back at someone's house playing the trampoline.
yeah,
But we probably got that because of there were so many links between our age group and my brother's age group. So like, brothers like playing in similar sides and so like both age groups were probably quite close because of the brother, even though it was a 3 year divide, just because like you'd always end up at someone's house,
yeah.
just playing trampoline rugby and getting smashed.
So I imagine they'd probably try to mirror the fixtures, wouldn't they? Just to
Yeah,
aid that a little bit. So
yeah,
wherever you play, George's team play, vice versa. Yeah,
yeah. And like a
right.
lot of the when you get to that age, you play at festivals and stuff, don't you? So you tend to be at the same festival just on a different pitch. So
Right, okay.
yeah,
No,
so
that
like
definitely helps, mate.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like going to like remember like probably the core memories of being a kid are like the festivals. So like Littleborough, used to go down to Moseley, Manchester. Probably those are the three that stick out. Because remember, once if you got knocked out or if you won, either or, you'd climb to that top of that hill. Is it Littleborough the hill? I
Need
can't
to play
remember.
it there, mate.
Yeah, I think there's a hill at Littleborough, and you can climb to the top of the hill and look down all the pictures.
Right.
Um, so yeah,
So would you have grew up playing rugby union right through till when? Because I
yeah,
know
yeah,
we've spoke in the past about a little bit of rep stuff, haven't we,
yeah,
in rugby league?
yeah. Well, I mean, played what? I only played rugby. I've probably played 2 seasons of rugby league in my life. Um, One was for the Vikings town team, whatever you call it, at like 14, I think that was, and I loved it. And I was like, this is class. And I came back to Union, and like, it probably shifted my mentality to probably more of a classic like Widnes mentality when you're playing rugby of one in all in. Probably didn't have that from school. Probably quite nice being at the Eddies and stuff. Um, so yeah, coming like getting that and going back into the Wids, it made me like kind of understand everyone a bit better.
Yeah,
Um, because it just felt at the time that the rugby league lads were probably a bit more physical and probably a bit like had a bit more testosterone knocking about than we did in the
yeah,
Union sides. But like we had a few of them playing for us, but yeah, it probably helped me understand them more. And then the year after, I just don't know why I just didn't go for it. I was just like, I can't be asked. And then played one season for the Hornets at 18. I remember training against you and Smigger and stuff on Wilmere. Only played, I don't know, 6 or 7 games that year. But yeah, again, loved it. Just Union was always my passion. And it was like once I finished Union, I always looked at those blokes that or kids that could play Union and then league and not have a break. And I always used to think like, how on earth are you doing that? So when I did
yeah.
it, I came out of it like, yeah, I probably just want to break and be a fat lad. So
Uh,
um,
Mate, I've
probably
just done it instead. I thought that's what it can be done.
yeah, I think I was just being to be fair, I think I was just being a little bit lazy. But yeah, like I
I
love
suppose what you've not had, mate, you don't really miss, do you?
no, and like I love rugby league. Um like I was when people ask where I'm from, like Widnes or rugby league town, I'm like, yeah, but I play Union, but I support rugby league. So I remember like probably up until very recently, I'd always be like, I'd rather watch a game of Super League than the Premiership, um, like Premiership rugby, that is, not. footy.
Oh, yeah.
But but then like now it's probably swapped, and I've become more of a rugby union fan. But I think that's just because the product's changed a bit and it's not as good
It
in
has. Yeah, it has.
yeah.
I love
So
rugby league myself, mate, and I'll say it's like the lads that I have on that play. I say I think like if you can stay in the game of rugby league for an hour and you're in it or winning, there's a strong chance you come out winning.
yeah,
Especially if you're happy to go set for set. It's just the better teams play that system that everyone else plays, but are more clinical doing it.
yeah.
That's the difference I see.
Yeah, it's how Saints and Penrith, like when you look at the two top tier competitions, that's when they both had that prolonged period. They didn't actually do anything fancy. They
Really good at what they do.
played the systems better than anyone else.
Yeah.
Whereas like I remember growing up, like even watching like Witness when they were like the old Northern Ford and or like you'd watch on like Sky and it'd be like the Wigan Saints derby and like it's just some mental tries that get scored or like there'd be like the old what was it the old 8 panel or 10 panel ball whatever it was like
Yeah.
yeah and like they'd be throwing like instead off the first tackle they'd be throwing like 4 man miss passes to the winger whereas now it's just like carry it up for 4 tackles have a go don't get anywhere kick it and it's like and everyone like jeers about union about being kick and clap and I'm like we've turned rugby league into kick and clap it's just that you get 5 tackles before you kick it now. Like there's no real invention, which is quite sad, I think.
Yeah. And do you know what, mate? I think a lot of rugby league lads, if they'd have had a good crack at rugby union a bit earlier, they'd understand union a bit more. Because the lads
Yeah,
that
yeah,
have come the wids and played it a bit later, they said they all say like they wish they'd have give it a go earlier. Because there is more than kicking yourself out of trouble, isn't there? But it's just
yeah,
on the telly because it's not just results that matter. It's people through a gate, and
yeah,
they
yeah,
they, they tend to kick the way out of trouble, and they'll happily go like set piece to set piece, which bores everyone. Even like we look
yeah, yeah.
around rugby union, but it bores us, doesn't it? It is what it is.
Yeah, like, there's some turgid rugby union games, and you're just like, this is terrible. Like, and
Yeah,
it's just like scrum after scrum, and like even after being,
caterpillars, mate.
yeah, after playing in the scrum and like watching it, I'm just like, I fucking hate scrums. So like watching it on the telly is like
Yeah,
water torture. So
yeah.
like, yeah, I fully.
They've banned. Have you seen the new law, mate? They've banned scrums off a free kick now.
Good because it does
Yeah,
make them.
exactly. Yeah, it doesn't do nothing.
Because
Yeah.
the South Africans did it a few years, or it might be a couple of years ago in the World Cup or last year, whatever it was.
Not in the 22.
Yeah, taking a scrum in the
Yeah.
22, get a penalty. Cheers.
Yeah. I know
So
it's
like,
nuts, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, I didn't know that, but that's made life a bit easier to watch
Yeah.
probably.
There's like three or four ones, but that's the one that stuck out for me, that one.
Yeah, I've not looked at them
Going
this
back
year.
to you then, mate, when you were younger, was Merseyside a thing?
I think I played like once for Merseyside, but I listened to George's and I didn't fully probably appreciate what George's felt. It's probably something quite similar to what I felt. Is I used to rock up to and I used to think I don't like anyone here. No one likes me here. Like and just yeah, I just didn't like the atmosphere. I just felt like it was a bit of a boys' club, which is probably like quite ironic to say, but like it was dads picking the team that they coached, and it was like picking their sons' mates and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, like I used to rock up, didn't really. It'd be like the Preston lads would get picked. If for like Lancashire, West Park lads would get picked, like Waterloo, and like if you're from Widnes, you didn't really fit the bill. So I was just like, I used to like get there and be like, I didn't try. So I'd be like, I don't want to be here.
You're already like shoved out the door. So when you've rocked up to that, mate, what's after your name? Is it Widnes or is it St Eddie's? Because I
I was
think
put
you'd have,
Widnes.
right? Because I think you'd have got a, no disrespect to people. I've felt that myself. I agreed with yours. Not saying I was good enough to get in. I'd have just wanted a fair chance. But I think if you'd have put St Edward's School after it, I think you'd have had a much better chance than putting Widnes.
Yeah, probably. I mean, like you'd always get that though, right? Like when you're a kid playing junior rugby, everyone would call you either a fake scouser or like you just rugby league lads, even when you're a kid. And that only gets bigger when people become more aware of it, like when you get to like cults and stuff. But you've probably heard all the exact same insults that I've had, um, that being from Widnes. So yeah, didn't I never
Not
really
be
engaged.
warranted to me though, mate. I'm a council estate.
Hey,
Up the Kingsway estate.
my mum's a townie, mate. It's fine.
Oh, same, mate. Same.
Yeah, and then yeah, so probably just that thing of I rocked up, didn't like anyone there, so never really tried, so never got in. So
Yeah.
I got in 1 year, played like 2 or 3 games, and I was just like, this isn't fun.
Well,
And
that
like,
was my next question. So it's not only have you managed to break that initial barrier, but you've got in and it's not really been what you've wanted.
yeah, so I remember going, I think it was at Iron Marsh, and I remember playing against North Lancashire. We were in red, Merseyside, they were in green. I remember just coming off the pitch going like, I said to my dad, I was like, don't want a beer. Like, and he was just like, all right. So then just didn't really go back for it again.
And where would you have been playing then, mate? Position what?
Uh,
Excuse me.
probably, probably it's all right. Probably at that point, probably would have been playing. Probably, I don't know. Probably would have moved from the centres by that point. So I probably would have played probably six. That's where I was probably playing. So
So
yeah.
do you remember what age that transition would have been?
Uh, probably getting into high school. I
Right,
remember
so
playing
so
for.
really, that's where it changes. That's how did you find that shift?
I to be fair, I was probably a bit of a yes man in terms of when people said, "Oh, you should try this," because I just thought they knew better than me. So I just was always like, "All right." So I just said to George after listening to his pod, and I was like, "I wish I had a bit more of your mindset when I was a kid," because everyone kept trying to shift him. Because you know, like when I started out, like it's the same as George, like 10, 12, and like always felt more when I was a kid, felt like that's where I played better. And like in the odd game where I've played, like there in my from like 18 upwards, which is probably a handful, I've actually felt like quite happy. I felt a bit more at ease. Um, so yeah, I've always just kind of been like, if someone goes, "Oh, you should try and play there," I've gone, "All right, I'm giving it a go," and that's how I ended up at hooker. And like, I was never a hooker, if we're being honest. Like, I just went there because one, there's not that many about, and two, like, I wanted to play the highest standard of rugby I could. And when people are saying like, "Oh, you'll play the highest stand, you'll play at the best standard you can at this position," you probably listen to them. But I
Yeah,
probably wish I'd just turned around and gone, actually, no, I'll just stick where I am.
yeah. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, Chaz, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, after how many years playing the front row? Okay, never again.
Well, we're going to speak about niggles and stuff in a bit, so probably one of your main ones will come from that
Yeah.
type of impact in that position, won't it, mate?
Yeah.
So, how does St Eddie's work? Is it infants, juniors, high school? Yeah.
Yeah, it's changed a bit over the years, but they have like a nursery from like I can't remember what age, but then you go to reception like everyone else, junior school, elementary, primary school, and then that's you go into junior school from there, and that's like up to so yeah, year six. So reception's year six, you're in one building, and then to get into senior school, like George went for it, but he had to do like an interview and stuff, whereas I didn't. I just got in because George got in. So I was
Good
like,
job you gave it a good interview then, innit?
yeah, I know. So yeah,
Imagine relying on George, mate.
I know. So I just got in because of that. So I actually didn't have to do it like an exam or anything. Got into senior school, and then you're in the senior school year seven to year 11. So you're there till 16, and then it depends if you can stay on with your GCSE results to do your A levels there. You have to get like I think it was a minimum. It depends on the subject, but it was like a minimum of a B to do it at A level. Um, so then they keep you on then, and then
You feel that? Did you feel that challenge?
um, I think there's probably going to be a common theme of me being a child here, John, with me not trying. Um,
Oh,
at me at not trying at like representative rugby and probably not trying at school. So my dad always said that like you always just do enough. And I was like, yeah, that's all you need to do. So re every exam result I've had is just enough. So
So you've
that's
always got what you've needed and
yeah,
nothing
well,
more, nothing less. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So work up to the point where I need to, and then I'm like, all right, cool. So probably the hard work penny has taken a long time to drop, but it finally has probably over the past, I don't know, 4 years.
Yeah. There's just nothing wrong with mate. You've done all right off the back of that, mate.
Yeah, yeah, like
But
I've done pretty well, but yeah, it was
yeah.
probably, when you look back and you're just like, you were just a fucking lazy
don't think
shit.
you'd be. I don't think you'd quite be who you are if you was any different, though, would you?
No, like I've always been pretty laid back, right? Like you've known
Yeah.
me probably longer than most now, but yeah, I've always been just kind of laid. Like I think I'm pretty chilled. Mia,
I've got to say, I can't imagine you uptight.
yeah, Mia, Mia says I hover over the red button, and it's quite a common. It's a joke between our friends in Leeds as well. Like, I'm always ready to press it. So that's probably came over the past 4 years. Um, but yeah, I'm just still probably 9 out of 10 times. I think I'm pretty relaxed.
Quite a bit of a coaster
Yeah,
that can
yeah,
achieve, really. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that. So your transition in school would have been pretty seamless, mate, wouldn't it? From like juniors or primary school, as you called it, to high school to
yeah.
sixth form. So what was the standard of rugby like at school compared to at the Wids, mate?
Uh, it's probably a bit. Everyone thinks like it's going to be when you go to the Eddies. Everyone thinks it's going to be like you know unbelievable standard of rugby, but when you get there, there's probably only like 4 or 5 lads that's actually played rugby before because there's not many primary schools or junior schools in Liverpool that play rugby, so they'd have to go like St Eddie's is one, but like you'd have to be playing at collegiate, Sefton or wherever just to get a taste of rugby. So like you rock up and everyone, pretty much everyone in the year, all the lads would go to like the first few rugby trainings. Um, so you'd have like an A and a B team right up until probably year 9, year 10.
Yeah.
Um, and like the standard is just like kids rugby. So there'd only be like, let's say 4 or 5 of you that had played. And then you'd be, but because you're a traditional rugby school, playing on a Saturday, training twice a week, the standard picks up pretty quickly. But you're also playing against people like Manchester Grammar, Lancaster Grammar, and these lads had been playing in the same team since the age of like 8, and they'd been, played rugby in school, played rugby out of school, and you'd rock up and some of these kids at 12 would be like 6'3", and you'd be like, where on earth have they grown him? And so like you'd come like I'd say when we were at the Eddies, it probably took us 4 or 5 years to get to a standard where you'd be like, fair enough, like it's pretty good. Whereas before then, it probably takes a while to gel.
We, my age group, got a real good core of players from the Eddies that look like they come out the womb with a rugby ball, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
Like, I know a
like just,
couple of them
yeah,
are a bit mixed, yeah, no, but like, I think probably Mike Marnie and Grimesy are probably the two that went into the footy a bit more, maybe. And Sean McKee. But the others were all like just out and out rugby players.
yeah. We didn't really have that, so we probably had about 5 lads that had played rugby before. So it was just building that, and then trying to remember, we won. I think we won like the Lancashire Plate. It was either I think it was year 9 or year 10. So like that was probably like the best achievement that we did as a year, but it took us like four like 4 or 5 years to get like anywhere decent. Um, but then like a lot of the lads, who probably didn't start playing rugby before like secondary school, primary, high school, whatever you want to call it, they ended up taking up rugby because they kind of enjoyed it at Eddie. So that's when we had a good call come to the Wids. So like you'll probably remember quite a few of them. like Nick Oakford and Conor O'Day, Danny McKay, Ollie Jim, and like a few of my other mates like Johnny Parr, Manley, and then like Ashall Coakley. We had quite a lot come down and come play at the Wids, and that wasn't an overnight thing. That wasn't, they came probably year nine time, and then came and played with us, and it was good. And then that's probably when as a school team we got better as well because so many of us were playing. Um,
Nations and all that start coming together, don't they, mate?
yeah,
So
yeah.
when did well, you and your team at the Wits start getting really competitive with clubs?
Um, uh, Probably when you break out of that. So when under 12s, we won like some Lancashire tournament, which is like the under 13s is when the Lancashire Cup properly starts in juniors, but they brought it in because it was like some anniversary. So we won that and we were like, oh, buzzing, like we're going to be class. And then I think under 13s to under 15s, we had a bit of a transition period. So like we had players leaving, going to like West Park or just stopping playing, getting new lads in, lads finding other things, changing coaching staff. Um, so I'd probably say like under 16s is when we, under 15s, under 16s is when we like actually became a really good unit and playing better stuff. You can't take any credit there because it is the time when you came about, John. But
Yeah,
I, yeah, so I think probably it took yet again a period of time to like build something and get the right balance because we had all the core players there, right? Like I want to say people coming and going, like I was one of them before then. Mike Jones came in and out the side, and then you look at him now and you're like, there's not a team sheet that he doesn't deserve to be on in the Wids. Um, and like same like Az was always there. Ben was always there. Jeff was always there. Um, so like those were the names that always stuck out, and they were there all the way through. Um, so yeah, it probably took us till about under 15s when you came in, like just helping out coaching. My dad, lol, and then there was a couple others along the way. But there was even changeover in the coaching staff. So like Steve McGrory was in there for a bit. Mal Ashall was in there for a bit. So there was a bit of a churn. And then like
yeah,
the occasional help with like I remember Arnie did a bit, um, George and Scully did a bit. So yeah,
yeah.
like it became more settled from like under 15s onwards. So that's when we probably started getting better results. And then that obviously culminated in so we won what was it, the Lancashire Plate again. Under
So we won
16.
something at Southport, didn't we?
Yeah, that was at Southport, yeah. So and then that was like our junior career was kind of cut a little bit shorter than most because we didn't have junior colts.
Yeah.
So we went from playing our own age at under 16s and finally thinking that we'd just started to find our feet. And then the year after, we played Sefton our first game of under 19s, and we're all 16, 17. And Sefton had just been beaten by the previous Widnes senior Colts team in the Lancashire Cup final. So they were out for blood. So it was a bit of a baptism of fire. So yeah, I think they all had about like I mean I think their front row he must have had about 25 kilos on me. And I was just like, okay.
Mortgage.
Yeah. I was just like, yeah, mortgage, kids. So yeah, like I remember just thinking like, fair enough, this is what this year's gonna be. So yeah,
Right.
probably took us till 16 and then we gelled and then we got thrown into a new mix.
Yeah. How did you find Colts rugby compared to that then, mate? How long do you think it took you to get a grasp of that?
I think physically it probably took us that first year, right? Um,
Yeah.
and then but to get a grasp of the social side, I think we grasped that pretty quickly. Like obviously, I grew up watching like you boys and all your celebrations, so I was pretty clued in. And it's Colts when I started drinking. It was obviously before then, didn't touch drop, and obviously you've been around enough rugby clubs um, that someone's dad wants to buy you a beer even when you're 14 or whatever, and but I always said no, and then I think in my head it was like, okay, once I get to Colts, can enjoy it, and I think we certainly did that. I think Mike Jones put on about 5 stone in his first year at Colts, and then he lost it all now. But
Yeah,
yeah, probably hate me for saying that. And then yeah, so I think we really grasped it socially. So it was great. Like for me, it's what rugby's about. Like playing with your mates, um, that you've grown up with. As I said, like been with Azza and Mike and Ben and Jeff from like however small, and to go out play rugby with them on a Sunday and then go have how many pints, kind of felt like couldn't beat it. Um, so yeah, it was good. It was really good fun, and like as much as he annoys me and or annoyed me at the time, Paul Newall was actually quite good fun to be around. Not when you're playing, but afterwards. So
yeah.
yeah, he made a
No,
really good
he did
he
bring energy, didn't he?
made a really good environment. Him and Jed. So yeah, they made it quite fun.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of questions around that, mate, and both very different. So first, if there's as much as you didn't drink, mate, you would have dab hand in the kitchen, wouldn't you? Like that was
Yeah,
something you really like that's something you enjoyed growing up, mate, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
am.
So it was cakes, wasn't it? Was it the Guinness cake was your famous one, wasn't
Yeah, I used to make a Guinness cake. But actually just done a
it?
6 week cooking course. Um, so like just to get better. So I think Mia's been quite appreciative of that because I've just finished it, but I was coming home with all sorts. So yeah, tea was to a good standard on those nights. So yeah, no, I've
That
always
replaced the
loved it. I
rugby,
think
that Chaz. Do
what
you
the
do
cook
things
what
like that to fill a space that would have been otherwise spoken for?
um probably subconsciously, yeah. I probably don't think about it like that, but I've always got to be doing something. Like I'm just like Mia always says, like, when we go on holiday, she can sit there for 7 days and bake and just not worry about anything. Whereas she's like, when you go on holiday, you want to be doing something like every 5 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, well, like I want to do like fill my time. And she's like, I'm filling my time by relaxing. So there's probably something in that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I obviously had to fill the rugby void for a few years. I think we'll probably come on to that a bit later, but I am
right, yeah.
slowly getting back into it. So yeah, the cooking probably did fill a gap for 6 weeks, and over pre-season, it's not exactly a bad gap to fill. Avoid that running.
No, well, no, it's not, mate. And the other thing is, do you think your outlook on what what you think's great now has changed? Because again, we'll touch on it in a bit that you're not playing anymore.
Um, yeah,
I know we all know it's boss to be at like playing on a Saturday with your mates and probably sometimes not even take your kit back home and you were out till you went corner house or we
yeah,
went
yeah.
wherever we went, the welly and that. But do we look at do you think we look at it a bit different because it got took away from us a bit earlier?
Um, yeah. Like I've had, it's probably a difficult question to answer like straight, but yeah, you do. You probably have a bit more rose tinted like glasses on with your memories because you're just like, how good was it? And then there's also that bitterness, right? Where you're like,
Initially, so very much probably you're still only recent, aren't you?
yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, I
'Cause
I
I
had the
never
ball,
wanted to be one of them lads that we speak about when we watch our mates.
oh, I hate it. Like,
And sometimes without realizing it, you do become one for like a moment
yeah,
because you
and
you feel like you can contribute, mate. So
yeah,
yeah, so you do get. I agree with you, and I'll probably agree with what you're gonna carry on to say now. So
it,
I'll leave you to it, and then I'll chime in.
it's funny because um I've probably had my best ever rugby memory and not played rugby, and I didn't think I'd ever feel that, and that was seeing Mike and Ben play at Twickenham this the year just gone. Uh, like when Mike got subbed off and he couldn't, like he was injured. Like he came off the pitch and I looked at me and I was crying. Like I was just like so proud of him. And like when Ben went on, I started fucking crying again. Um, just because I was like so proud of my mates. And it feels odd to say that that's like your favorite like rugby memory. It probably shows that I've not won that much, right? But
Not
Like,
necessarily, mate.
yeah, I think, yeah, but I think that bit of that I had no that day I had no like that should be me,
Mm.
because I was just happy. Whereas like probably if that happened like 2 years ago, even though I wasn't playing for Widnes, I'd be like, oh, could be there.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I probably come around a bit better. And then like I've had recently had some well like the physio and stuff have said like you probably can go back and play.
Right,
Um,
okay.
but like don't play front row. So like that's probably been a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. It's the fact that I know I can play. So I actually played 3 games at the back end of last year for Yarnbury.
Mm.
Um, two for the seconds and one for the firsts. So to get 3 games under my belt and injury free, probably better than my record over the past 4 years I was playing anyway. Like when I was actually
I
playing.
think
So
do you reckon you'd enjoyed it more though and appreciated it a bit more?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Like come off. I think I appreciate being injury. Um, but yeah, definitely appreciated it. Just uh, because you just well, you feel like you got out of it unscathed. So yeah, it's probably that.
Right. So I was pretty similar to you regarding Twickers. Like it's boss to see your mates doing really well, and there's no bigger stage in this country to play on. If you play that called of rugby, it's a fact. Regardless of the level that you're classed as or the opposition, you will not play on a better piece of grass than that.
No,
The
historic,
only
isn't
other
it?
thing was right. If I was asked, someone's pulled up in warm up, we'll only bring it on if we absolutely need you. I'd have done that.
Yeah.
There's not many games I feel like that about anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really special though, wasn't it? Like,
No, it
I
was.
think
Yeah, it definitely
the
was.
I think we've probably touched on it already, and we probably speak about it when we're all together. But like in the rugby union community, there's that thing about Widnes being that rugby league town, and to see that rugby league town that had pissed off so many people along the way, and people think that can't play rugby union, and to see your mates and see the Wids badge at Twickenham felt like quite a satisfying fuck you to all like the
Yeah,
to all the top brass of all the people that I've ever dealt with Widnes and stuff. It was just like, right, yeah, we didn't get the result, but can brush shoulders with you. And to see those lads from Widnes do that, I think that was pretty cool.
it was. Especially I think all but two or three juniors sort of come through the club at a young age
Yeah.
and done it like that. Right, mate. So we'll rewind then, mate. And what was the ambition leaving school? What was Charles looking to do?
It's a good question. I probably didn't know. And I think that's all right at that age. I think history was my best subject at school. And I was like, all right, I'll go do history, even though George did history. And everyone thinks I copied him, but it was just probably it's the one I got my best mark in.
Yeah.
So I did that and then went to Hull.
So what were
Didn't
the
really know what I was
options there,
doing.
mate? So when it comes to uni, did you have options? Was why Hull?
Um, when I say I just did enough, I just did enough to get into uni. So um, I did have the ambition to go to Liverpool, but I missed out by a grade. So I was like, okay. But then rang Hull on clearing day, and it was quite stressful, obviously, because you're thinking, let down everyone, don't have a university, and by the end of the day, you're like, oh, I'm going to university. This is a class. So it's a real roller coaster of a day. And Widnes also beat Warrington away at the Halliwell Jones with 12 men, and Jack Owen scored in the corner,
The
and that's how I
16-6
celebrated
game.
getting into Hull.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, when Kale took off
Hodgson.
Hodgson's head underneath the picks. Yeah, Hodgson's head. Yeah. So yeah, it was yeah, pretty big day, and I knew Hull was a pretty good uni. So I was pretty happy when they said they'd take me. It's got quite a good rep, and then yeah, the plan was just to get the 3 years done, play my rugby there, and then get my degree and get out. And then probably is going to like going to Hull was probably the best thing like I've done in terms of moving away.
On
Um,
your own as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like finding my feet. I think one person from my school went, and I didn't really know them, so it wasn't like I had a friend that was going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just had to throw myself in. Um, and then yeah, that's my thing was. I think it's probably been my thing throughout life. If you move somewhere new, you join a rugby club, and you've got like at least someone who's there who's going to like you. You hope.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, joined the university rugby team, and then next how many years is yeah probably up there with Colt.
Yeah. Right, so talk to us. So it was social sec.
And I was secretary in my second year, and then I was club
Right.
president in my third year.
So what do them roles entail,
Uh,
mate?
so when you become secretary, you're just the president's lackey. So you go book the refs, book the pitches, book the buses, um,
Where do
and
the funds come from, mate, for that? From the lads?
so yeah, so like you have to
Yeah.
fund. It's all self-funded. We were like, so we played in Northern 1A, which is the league below Bucks Premier. So we played against the likes of Liverpool, Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds Met twos, Newcastle twos and stuff. So we were playing against some teams like Durham. I think Durham threes were in there. So you're playing against universities with big budgets and big sponsorship deals, whereas we had nothing. Um, so we'd rely on people paying the membership at the start of the year. That'd get you about 3 grand. And then the student union used to give you 50% of your bus travel, but your kit um, and like pitch hire and stuff, you have to pay an extra fee on that. And then just, yeah, you'd have to go out and get your own sponsorship. So
So
being
you were
secretary,
effectively a club within uni rugby, weren't you?
yeah. So we had to
Yeah.
go out to all the local businesses, local takeaways, student lettings, any local business in in the city, email, knock on doors, um, and yeah, just beg, borrow. Um,
Steel.
think, but yeah, think of like innovative ways and stuff. So like we probably got on the social media and like Pitch Hero advertising a little bit before most people because we had to.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, back in like 2014 before it became really big. Um, so yeah, like that's what you had to do. Just so that was quite stressful because you knew like if you didn't get enough money, the club couldn't run. So there'd be like 100 lads with nothing to do if that happened.
Yeah.
Um, so
Was there
yeah,
no
it
link up
was.
with any of the whole clubs? No.
We tried to in the end. So Hull RUFC, who are I think Nat two now or Nat one, don't know. Um, we used to play our games there at their ground. We didn't even used to play at the uni,
Right.
like because it was cheaper to play at Hull Rugby Club than it was at the
Yeah.
university, which is just mad. So yeah, we only got that link really between the clubs in my third year because their head coach Gary Pearce, who actually played a bit of Super League for Hull, or might have
Yeah.
been top division for Hull FC. Um, he came and coached us for a year, and it was
Right.
great.
For
Like he
nothing,
was
like.
mad, and he was very.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that? It just broke up then. Sorry, Gil.
Would he have done that for nothing?
He did do that for nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
like he was getting offers from like I think York were in our league as well. York offered him like 24 grand a year to do it, and he turned them down. He had bags of cash anyway. Like he had some um real estate
Yeah.
business, and I think he was doing pretty well.
Right.
Um, but he was just like, yeah, for the link between the club for like some of our lads to go play, and I think about 4 lads went and ended up playing first team for Hull.
It's a good effort, all that, isn't it?
So like he got a pretty you got a pretty good deal out of it, I
Yeah.
think.
Right, mate. So
So yeah,
what was it? Court's journeys away, so that's the piss ups on the way home. It's the nights out,
yeah,
mate. It's the tours, isn't it? You done tours, didn't you? And
yeah. It's pretty. It's like a whirlwind, to be fair, when you're at uni. I'll redact some names because they're in pretty well-paying jobs now, and there's probably some of the stories are probably not PC. Um, but yeah, it'd be Wednesday night every Wednesday, even in the exam season, you'd find at least 10, 15 lads to go get on the piss with. But usually you'd probably have about 30 to 40 lads on a social every Wednesday after playing a game. Even could be even higher if everyone's away and you all meet back at the student union. I think the biggest social we had one year was like 80 people or like 75, and it's just mental how big that is.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, every away day was a bus trip, um, and yeah, it was um, pretty boozy no matter where you went. Port to port, Liverpool to Hull was always a highlight. Prop idol, watching two props eat a kilo of yogurt as quick as they could, and then singing after that didn't end particularly well. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of good memories, and but they're all kind of merge into one. But the best bus trip ever was probably we played on our final year. We played York away, and it was the only time I've seen a university rugby club turn up with a supporters bus. So we filled one bus with all the players and supporters, and then another bus full of all the new members, all the freshers that had joined. So yeah, we turned up to York, and York must have been because York just got relegated. York must have been thinking, "What the fuck is this?" Like all the lads had been on it since like 8 a.m. in the student uni, and it was like, yeah, mental. So that was a pretty good day out, even though it was quite a short one at York. But yeah, tours, we used to go to Salou. So getting a bus from Hull all the way to Salou, can tell you it wasn't a pretty sight by the end of it. And then having a week in Salou, I've seen some things that I probably want to unsee.
yeah,
Um, and then we also went to Croatia as well, where I will tell this story of we were in this super club in Croatia called, was it in Croatia or might be in Salou, but Biblos. Um, and my friend James Buckland was dressed as Vince McMahon in the big suit, like silver, and he was walking around like him, talking like him, but he was leathered. And they had a river or like a moat surrounding this nightclub, and he fell in it. And then obviously he's walking around the nightclub absolutely drenched, and the bouncer's like, "Right, you've got to leave." So he runs off, and then no one sees him for like half an hour, and we're sat by this moat, and all of a sudden I hear, psst, psst, and I turn around, and there's loads of these reeds in Buckland. I just see these reeds move, and it's his head popped up, and he's just staring at us, and he just goes, "And the bouncer's gone." And we go, and we go, "Yeah, have you been there the whole time?" He goes, "Yeah." And then we're all like, "All right, we'll just get out then." He goes, "Okay, one more thing." And he pulls a fish from his pocket and swallows the fish. And I was just like, "All right."
you win.
Yeah. And I just didn't really know what to do with that. But yeah, just seeing him, Vince McMahon eat a fish
Not
was
bad.
pretty special. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, tours were pretty mental. We went on them every year for a week. But then the worst part is getting the 24-hour coach journey back from Salou to Hull after a week on it. And you get the people that would think they're really good and like down loads of beers on the way home. Not for me. Just get my head down.
Right, so where did club rugby go while you were at Hull Uni, mate?
Um, so like obviously with the link going to Hull, I had the option to play for Hull twos like on and off a bit. I think I played like once. Didn't really enjoy it because I was like, I'm only playing on a Wednesday. Um, and then we had like another club team on a Saturday that would play against other clubs from the university. So it'd be our third team. They'd play like all the local clubs. So if I wanted to get like more of a fix, I'd play then, which is quite good fun. But I was still signed as a member to the Wids, so when I'd get the call from PE or Westy, I'd come back and play. Funnily enough, it was always a real shitter game. So Penrith away and places like that, I'd be getting the phone call to come play. But yeah, it was still at the Wids. And then I remember coming back playing against Kirby Lonsdale with George. We beat them at home. And they went really well that year. I think they went up that year. So to beat them at home was a pretty good result. Um, so yeah, I probably played a handful of times coming back for the Wids, and then it'd be like, coming back for Easter if there was any games on, coming back over Christmas, any games on. Um, and yeah, it was mainly when I was at Hull, it was all focused about the rugby, trying to play first team for Hull, and I was playing hooker then, but playing against and playing with some of the best players I've played with because they all played, well, not all, but the majority played, National League rugby. Some of them had come from like, there was a couple of lads that had played for like Saracens Academy. One lad's gone on to play for like the Western Force. So like, you know, standard of rugby union player that
Yeah, he
hadn't
does.
really, hadn't really come across before.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, some of the best. Like I remember going to university rugby, going like wow, like the team we had in our first year was like pretty sensational. I think only probably like one or two of them didn't play national leagues.
Right. So do you feel that when you're in it, mate? Is it a
Yeah,
real step up?
um, yeah. So like I did the first couple of games, but then in my first year, I was actually quite fortunate that I was the reserve hooker for the first team. So I actually had quite a few starts when people were injured. So probably played standard rugby that I thought I could play, but hadn't before. And loved it. And like the first couple of games, you're a bit daunted, but then after that, you just settle in because you feel like, oh, I've played a couple now. Like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm quite fortunate the fact that Hull was always a bigger pack than everyone else. So being a smaller forward probably made it easier when you've got blokes who are like man mountains behind you. So um, yeah, probably made that transition a bit easier.
Right. So when the end of uni's coming on, mate, what are the options for you? What you're looking to do? Where you looking to go?
Um, well, I didn't really yet again uh, coaster. Didn't really know what I was doing still then. I didn't really feel ready for work. Didn't really feel ready for like real life. So I was like, I'll just do a master's in business. So I did that just to stay at uni for another year. Um, and yeah, that was pretty much it. Just did a master's in business for a year. A couple of my mates who had done years abroad who I lived with in second year came back, Jed and Roy. So like had guys to live with. And I was a bit like, yeah, okay, just do it. Yeah, just do it for another year. And then after that, I knew like I'd have to go and join the real world, but we'll probably come on to that. That I didn't for another 18 months. Um, so yeah, it was just probably not being ready for what was coming next. Um, so yeah, I did a master's, and then after my master's, very fortunate that I managed to go to South America for 3 months, and then lived in Australia with the dream to play rugby there, but didn't really work out. So
Talk to us
yeah.
about it then, mate. So what happened? Why South America to begin with, and then what was the crack in Australia, mate?
To be fair, I piggybacked on one of my best mates from uni, Ollie. It was his idea to go to South America, and I was like, "That sounds class. I'll come with you." So then, um, got on the trip with him. We did that for 3 months, and he was like, "I'm going to Australia in January," and I was like, "All right, okay." So then we frantically were like Googling rugby clubs in Australia. And I had a mate who I met at Camp America, John T, who lived in Adelaide. And I knew the standard of rugby in Adelaide wasn't great. So I said to Wally, I went, I actually think if we go to Adelaide, we could probably play in the top league in Adelaide and we might even be able to get some cash. And he was like, all right. So we started like emailing clubs in Adelaide, and then we got a response from this guy, this Kiwi, who was coach of South or Southern Suburbs in Adelaide, and they'd come bottom of the league for like the past 3 years. Um, but he was like, "Yeah, we'll have you. Um, you know, look at accommodation, car, jobs." Um, I mean, Ollie were like, "Get in, yeah, sound." So then we got to Oz, we got to Adelaide, and then we got there, no job, no car or accommodation. And it was like, I'll sort your own accommodation out. We are like, okay. So we sorted our accommodation out, sorted a car out, and that worked about 3 times before we sold it. But we were there in Adelaide for about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks maybe. And obviously, you've only got a certain amount of cash. And we were paying for a car, a house, and living. We weren't even doing anything like mental. We weren't even really going out. Um, and we were training with them. They were like, job be next week, job be next week. And we got to the third week, and me and Ollie looked at each other and went, there's no job coming here. So then we had to get ourselves out of a 12-month lease. Um, Fortunately, we did that. We found some students that wanted our house. So we got out of that, sold the car for like scrap, and then
Yeah.
got a ticket out of Adelaide. And we went, because we had no money after that. We had enough money to get to like where all the farms are up in Queensland. So we had enough money to get there and got a flight up, and then got put on a banana picking farm, which was awful. And then after a week of that, they were like, "We need your passport and stuff." Me and Ollie were like, "No, you're not having that." So we left there under the cover of darkness, and then we found our place in Bundaberg, and we were there for however long. And we actually stayed there and made quite a few mates and earned quite a bit of cash. Um, but yeah, it was all a bit of a roller coaster first month in Australia, to the point of like,
Bit scary as well, mate.
um, yeah, because like, I mean, well, probably my privileged position in terms of like, I've never had to worry about cash. And I don't mean that as big-headed or anything like that. I meant
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's just a nice fallback though, Charles, isn't it?
yeah.
It's a
So
safety
like,
blanket.
so then, but when I was in Oz, I'd realised that, got to the end of the rope in terms of probably hadn't delivered in terms of fully what I need, the aspirational goal at university. And, you know, I had to be sensible with my money, and I had been. It was just obviously serious, unfortunate events. So I
Yeah.
knew that I couldn't ring home and be like, I fucked up again. Um, so it was just like that was scary, but the fact that Ollie and I just cracked on, found jobs, and we literally did everything. So, 1 week we were picking lemons out of trees, 1 week we were picking mandarins, the next we were I think Ollie went to a watermelon farm. I was in a macadamia processing plant, like shifting between three of us, we shifted like 16 to 18 tons of macadamia as a shift. Like, you know, did it the hard way. And we did that for 6 months. And then we went on a road trip in Australia, like we'd finally earned it. Um, and then we both worked in Sydney for a bit. Ollie worked an extra year. I came back after a year. But yeah, it was like that's probably where I grew up very quickly. Probably didn't grow up at uni.
Yeah.
That's probably where my um like easygoing, oh, I'll be fine, don't put too much effort in. That's probably where that changed, is when I was there.
Right. And was there any like researching by yourself for staying that year with Ollie, or was you always coming off?
So like I'd done my time at like all the farms to stay, and that was the ambition. But there was just something in my head. I came home for Tom Mac's wedding, and then like when I came home, I was like, do I want to go back, or do I want to try and get a job? And because I had that thing in my head of like not doing particularly well at university, you probably need to like get a grip of your life and get a job, sort yourself out. So like came home, had a bit of a, crisis internally. And I spoke to my dad and brother about it, and my mum, and they were just like, right, put everything down on a piece of paper. So I did. So then when I got back to Oz, got a job working in a wine warehouse, which was really good fun. So I did that for like 6 months. But in those 6 months, I was um, constantly applying to like graduate schemes back in the UK, and also trying to like use any connection I had in Australia to get a corporate job. But it's pretty tough when you don't have any experience in a corporate world to get a job on the other side of the world. So I was getting quite a lot of kickbacks from that. But then I got offered the job at Morrison's on their graduate scheme. So then as soon as that offer came through, it was like, right, okay, that's it done. So I came home in January 2019. And then, yeah, and then I got offered that job then. And I could have gone back for like 7 months until my grad scheme started, but instead I opted to stay in Widnes, played a bit of rugby, played under you for the twos, had a really good time. I think I played a few games for the first as well that time. So felt pretty good because before I went to Australia, played a couple of games for the first. I remember the day before I flew, we played Lee away and we won in the pissing rain. And I actually got my boots stuck in customs in Australia because we still had mud from Lee. Um, but yeah, came back, played twos, and then I was working at Domino's again. So I was a delivery driver at Domino's for how many months. Um, and then started work at Morrison's in September 2019. And that's when I moved to Leeds.
And was that the what you had to do, mate?
I didn't have to. It was just my placement was in Bradford. Um, so I didn't want to be driving from Widnes to Bradford every day.
Yeah.
So I just made the thing, and I'd got quite accustomed to, like, I hadn't lived at home really. Like, I know I lived during that period before the grad scheme, but like I hated it, like being at home. Like I loved obviously spending time with my mum, but like it was just like I'd become so accustomed to my own space from university to South America to Australia. Like I'd become very comfortable effectively being by myself, and I actually preferred it. Um,
Plus, you changed, mate. You grew
yeah,
up, haven't you?
yeah. So I was
Yeah.
like, I don't really want to be here. So like, I remember I think my mum knew that. Like she was always just like, yeah. So, but she was very supportive. Like I remember her and David came to Leeds, just like, and just drove me around looking at houses. So that I was, potentially going to rent, like, just a flat share, so people
Yeah.
already in it. And they were asking all the questions that I'd never really asked before. Because when you pick a house at uni, you just go in and go. Sometimes just look at the pictures and go, sound. How much is that going to cost? Yeah, cool. And then you get there and you go, oh, not great. Um, but so they go around like doing that, and they were great. Getting all the questions asked that I didn't know to ask. Um, and yeah, really supportive. So yeah, and then so that was step one, find a place, moved in. And then when I moved in, just started working and joined a rugby club. And that's pretty much my life in Leeds.
And where was that? That Yarnbury, that mate.
I went up to a pre-season at West Leeds. They were actually played the Wids
Yeah.
in that cup run, and I played one game for the seconds, and I just didn't really. It's not like I didn't fit in. It was just like I went to quite a few training sessions, and like it was quite cliquey, so no one spoke to me. And all of a sudden, um, my mate from uni, Robbie, his brother John was living in Leeds, and he knew the coach at Yarnbury. And John was like, "I'm going up to Yarnbury if you want to come." I was like, "All right, yeah, cool." I went to Yarnbury, and everyone was just really nice. So I was like, "Oh, all right, this is good." Literally, as soon as I got home from the Yarnbury training session, I had a text from the West Leeds coach saying, Can you play ones for us this weekend?" And I was just like, "Sorry, mate, join Yarnbury."
Oh,
Um,
well, that's it, innit? And that's quite unusual in rugby, mate, innit? You don't often get a closed book. And
yeah,
I've
so
never come across
yeah,
one.
yeah, so I was a bit like, "Oh, all right, okay." So it was just maybe it's they're trying to make me earn my stripes or whatever, but I was like, I'm playing amateur rugby. I don't have time for that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair enough. And
so
obviously
then
Leeds was quite a big move because you meet me here, don't you? So your life drastically changes and
Yeah.
What we've not spoke about, mate, is your love for Everton and how that come round.
Oh yeah.
So before we carry on with Yarnbury and Mia, because Mia's the Leeds fan, isn't she? So where does Everton come into your life? How, when, why?
But when I was a kid, because George was an Evertonian, like couldn't get an Everton shirt off him, and like
Yeah,
football was a bit more like for me, could take it or leave it. Wasn't too. So on my dad's side, there's quite a few Man United fans, so they kept buying me Man United kits. And like when we play football in the guard, they'd try and call me Ruud van Nistelrooy because it'd be saying you're dead lazy, but I just bang it in back of the net, and I was like, nothing wrong
Sapping
with that.
King.
Yeah. So they kept trying to get me to be a United fan. Um, but sense took over when I was like, I remember thinking like as a kid, I was like, I can't be a Man United fan and go to school. Like, couldn't do it. So when it became like, well, I was an Everton fan for like, when I was in primary school. Um, but yeah, I remember thinking that before going to like I can't support Man United in Liverpool. Like, and I didn't like the colour red. So which is obviously not great playing at the Wids, but um, yeah, Everton was just always the thing, and it was probably like I followed it pretty much, like as best you could. But I was always playing rugby, so like going to the midweek games, Europa League games, um, like anywhere you could, like Carabao Cup. Couldn't really go to many Saturday 3 o'clock kickoffs,
Yeah,
but I'd watch every game I could. Um, and then it probably moved when I was at in Australia because of the time difference and also TV broadcasting rights. You can watch every game. So Saturday night, and it'd be like Saturday night at like 11 o'clock, prime time, like a few beers with your mates, put the Everton
yeah,
game on. So like I didn't miss a game. And then coming back, I've kind of felt like I just can't. Like it's a big part of what I like. So um just go to as many as I can and run the season ticket waiting list. It's quite fortunate in the fact that, Sean Newell, Sean Mack, Jimmy Kenyon, my brother, um, Matty Walker, um, probably missing someone else, Josh Kenyon. There's quite a few like Evertonians on my mum's side. Pretty much everyone's an Evertonian. Um, so like always got someone to go to the game with. Um, so yeah, coming back was just like, right, let's go to as many as we can. Oh, Mike, missed out Mike Jones, a massive blue. Um,
no, because a
but
few years do get to the games, don't you? And
yeah,
you work it out
oh
somehow for get as many of
yes.
you as you can there.
So I was at the Roma game at the weekend, which was pretty good. But then yeah, come back and then it's just always been massive part. So I'm actually looking at an Everton shirt from '01 on the wall
Yeah.
here in front of me, and there is a Leeds shirt on the wall just over there because for me. But yeah, so it's a pretty footy madhouse.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's just all it's probably come, as I say, more since coming back from Oz and probably playing rugby less, where your
yeah.
priorities change a little bit. So like I'd never have dreamed of missing like a game for an Everton game, whereas now I probably would.
Probably only play if there's no game.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, that's probably where my shift has gone.
So Yambry, mate,
But
why
yeah, me is
Yambry?
just
What was that? Sorry.
I said me is just from Leeds, so that's why Mia loves Leeds. Well, she's from
Yeah,
Harrogate, posh Leeds, but
right.
yeah.
And to be fair, like she knows about it as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, I don't question her about
Yeah.
football. She pulls me
No,
apart.
no. Yeah. So why Yambry then, mate? And how's it gone? I think I remember someone was giving me shit from Yambry because I said something about Sinfield coaching elite or something. Can't even remember the guy. You remember I told you that?
Yeah,
That's
remember?
how I know about Yambry. Yeah, I got shit on one
Yeah.
of the socials off someone. But yeah, how was it there, mate? And injuries wise, how have you been with injuries? Because that'll lead us on to the next phase of your
Yeah.
life, won't
Yeah, as I said, Yarnbury was just because everyone was nice. They were playing Yorkshire too, which was level 8, I think. Um, so like standard wasn't Yorkshire leagues, so probably some of the best standard you're playing. So it's probably not transferable to like other counties. Um, so yeah, it was just everyone was nice. Played probably 3 or 4 games for the seconds there, and then they asked me to play ones. Um, So yeah, went there, tried to make a mistake as a back rower. But I was like, yeah, I can play hooker if you need me to. So probably my first year played more games at back row than I did hooker. And then
Big step
um,
up from ones, from twos to ones, Charles. Or
they're pretty lucky in the fact that their ones and twos are pretty similar, or they were back then, pretty similar level. So like the actual game in the twos was a step up to ones, but the players you were playing with were actually quite similar. So their twos always, so our twos always do pretty well in their league. Like they always play against clubs that much higher than the one standard because of like there's not that much difference
yeah,
between the two, so it's quite good. But yeah, and then uh, the first year at Yarnbury, that's when I got two injuries. So um, we were playing against Wheatley Hills at home. I was playing at back row, and their eight picked, and I tackled him, and I remember stubbing my finger in the floor, and I was like, yeah, broke my finger there. And I was just like, did the classic, tape it up, nothing, be fine. But I'd actually snapped I think they call it the volar plate or something like that. So it's just a tendon that it enables you to be able to move your finger, like extend it from the like mid knuckle upwards. So over the next like 6 weeks, my finger just gradually clawed in. So it was stuck at like a 45-degree angle and I couldn't move it, or I could move it inwards, but I couldn't like flatten it. Um, so yeah, that got stuck like that, which wasn't ideal. Um, and then the last game before lockdown, we played West Park Bramhope, which is the Yarnbury's rivals. And there's footage of it. In the first minute of the game, I got a seatbelt tackle, and I remember feeling my knee go, and I was like, "Oh, that doesn't feel all right." But I could still run, and like wasn't too much agony. So I was like, "Oh, okay, it must have just been like a click, it'd be all right." And then as the game went on and on, I was like, "Okay, this is hurting." And then we finished the game, we beat them, um, went out on the piss, which actually coincides with it being the last night out before lockdown. Um, so that was our last game, and I turns out I torn my meniscus in two places. So it's not like the biggest injury, but it needed surgery. So obviously just sat there in lockdown with torn meniscus and my finger that's crooked that needs to be corrected as well. So I felt a bit sorry for myself. So then I was probably the most operated on amateur rugby player in lockdown. I actually managed to get two operations in. So I got my finger straightened out and I got my knee cleaned out, which was probably quite lucky. Um,
yeah,
and then, yeah, and then came back to rugby and I really enjoyed my first year at Yarnbury. And I remember ringing the coach and I was like, because I came from um, playing at the Wids, which obviously was the old league below Nat three, and then they like level seven. So I'd come from like, it was a bit of a drop. I felt like in my head it was a bit of a drop down in standards. So I rang him and I was like, look, like I feel like I can add a bit more. You know, I'd like to be part of the leadership group. You can tell me to like fuck off if you don't think that. Like I'll happily. And he was like, no, no, it's been something that we've been wanting to do. I was like, oh, okay. So they said, oh, you'll be vice captain next year. And I was like, oh, cheers, brilliant. And then so we're going through that, and then there was a year that the RFU cancelled the season after lockdown. If you remember that, so that didn't. So you missed 2 years really. Um, and then the season after, the first team captain retired through injury. So they were like, "All right, okay, well you're going to be captain." And I was like, "All right, okay, cool." And I probably got in the best shape of my life for that pre-season. I was probably down to like 90 kilos and I felt pretty good. Um, and I was like, "Okay, I'll go back row." And then the coaching staff left, and then new coaches came in, and uh, we won like I think 7 out of the first 9 games. So we went on a pretty good run. Um, and like I probably wasn't playing my best, and I had like a niggle all year in my shoulder, and like I couldn't. like I was just in agony in my left shoulder pretty much every time. It felt like I was getting a sting every game, and I was like, this isn't normal. Um, so I was probably playing for injury. I asked for a couple of weeks off. They said yeah, and then I got a phone call both those Saturdays saying, "Can you come play for us?" And I played pretty much a full 80 on those. So it was a bit like couldn't win, couldn't rehab. Um, but you do it right when you get to that position. You don't want to feel like you're letting anyone down. And then uh, probably after the sixth game, one of the head coach just stopped speaking to me, and I was like, I don't really know what to do. Like trying to speak to him, just wouldn't acknowledge me, and I was thinking like, what the fuck have I done? Um, so he kind of froze me out a little bit, and then we went away to Hull and he pulled me after not speaking to me for weeks. And he went, if we had anyone better, you'd be in the twos. And I was like, brilliant, 5 minutes before kickoff. And the only reason I didn't get my bag and leave was because I'd given my housemate Flesh a lift to the game. I couldn't be like, right, George, we're off. So like that's the only reason I stayed and played. Um, and then like I was still struggling with my shoulder, and a week after played against North Allerton at home, and he put me on the bench. I came on and I played all right, wouldn't say anything major. And then I turned up to training on Tuesday, and we were just doing tick and pass, and I tapped someone, and it was like the stinging sensation, like when you feel like you're burning, you're like, oh, and I was like, okay, it'll go, and it didn't go, and it was just building and building and building, um, to the point of like I couldn't sleep for like 3 days, and I was taking like codeine. George had some really souped up painkiller from his ACL. He posted that to me on like 24-hour delivery. Um, I took that and I felt like I was doing the luge. So I'm not sure if he posted me the right thing or not. And um, yeah, I remember and Mia just looked at me one night and she just went, "You've got to go to the hospital tomorrow." So I went to Leeds LGI, got there and I was like, don't x-ray me. I know you can't MRI me, but like I need to get it in the system. Like nothing's broken in my shoulder. I can move my shoulder. I just feel like I'm burning from the outside, like the inside. And then they had to go at me because my GP's still SCOE in Widnes. They were like, you need to move your GP to Leeds. I was like, I'm not a student. I know what I'm doing. Like, leave me alone. And then they x-rayed me. They were like, nothing wrong with your x-ray. Here's a pack of codeine. I was like, this is all I've been doing. So I just had to ride it out. So I saw the physio at Yarnbury and he did some he like elongated my spine and I felt relief. But this was like probably like 4 weeks later. It was like the first time I'd felt relief in like 4 weeks. Um, and then yeah, I just put up with it. And then eventually I had to pay 400 quid for an MRI at the Spire in Leeds just to so that they could figure out because the wait times for MRIs in the NHS was so long post COVID. And they were like, yeah, you've got two bulge discs in your neck, C6 and C7. Um, so how we fix this is we go in, we go through the front of your neck, you move your windpipe, and they take the discs out, and we put two plastic spaces in. Oh, and you'll never play rugby again. And I was like, oh, like, so I left there, I rang Mia and I cried. Because I was like, what am I going to do? Like, played it since
Yeah.
the age of 4. I don't really know what else I'm going to do. Like, I was like, it's my life. Um, Like it was where my social is, all my mates are playing, and I just felt pretty down about it. So like rang her, cried. She was like, all right, well, that's just one opinion. And I was like, yeah, it's a good point. So then rang SCOE and I was like, I've got the MRIs now, SCOE. Can you forward them on to um like a sports neurosurgeon or something? And he did. And so I saw them at the Walton Centre. Um and they
It's never great, that is it, mate. I know that now.
yeah,
That's the place I know that's never great, is it?
no. So like I was like, all right, okay. I'm going to like the Walton Centre, same place where David sometimes goes for his Parkinson's and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
like I was walking in there like, you know, 26, 27, like fucking hell. Like what am I gonna do? Like, I don't want to be a vegetable. And like everything's going around your head. Like what if this is never fixed? What if I'm in pain for the rest of my life? And then the sports neurosurgeon was great. I can't remember her name now, but she was like, the soft discs, if we do this program of rehab, like they should go back in. And I was like, would I be able to play rugby again? She was like, probably in 18 months to 2 years, but we'd need to like monitor it. Um, but obviously one bloke told me never, and then someone told me 2 years, and I was thinking I'm 27. There's not much time left. So I kind of consigned myself to the fact of like not playing rugby again. But in this time, I had like muscle wastage down my left side. So like it was visibly noticeable the difference between my left and right. Um, and if you asked me to lift like 5 kilos above my head at one point, I was like, I'm struggling on like a shoulder press or whatever. So like I had to do that whole rehab process of effectively like building my left side up from scratch. Um, so I did that, and that took 2 years, and then that took me back up to when I played those 3 games for Yarnbury in February. It'd been 2 years since I played, and I felt okay. Um, but yeah, it's probably always in the back of my mind. So I'm seeing how pre-season goes, and then I'll probably make a call if I have that like hunger. I think I proved my point in the fact that I didn't have my last game playing for the coach who I didn't respect. Um, so like I felt like I made peace with that. But there's probably still an itch that I want to scratch in terms of like I've played for Yarnbury since I moved to Leeds now, 5 years coming up to, and you get a first team tie if you play 15 games in a year. And I've played first team every year I've been at Yarnbury, but I've always got injured. So I missed it by 2 games the year I got my bulge discs. So it's like I would like to get there
Yeah,
just to
I
kind
know
of
I that,
say,
mate.
like, I've done it.
Yeah,
But we'll see. I mean,
because
it's pretty tough, like pretty conflicted.
nothing wrong with having that end aim.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
it's like, yeah, I don't know. I just find it tough in my own head because, um, like, there's always that thing of you don't want to be a vegetable, you don't want to be in pain, but
yeah,
is it just a pride thing or an ego thing? Like, so I'm probably just weighing that up. I know what Mia would prefer me not to do, and I know what
yeah,
probably my family probably know what I don't want. I know my dad's probably a bit more. My mum's like, obviously she's a townie, so she's like, put a scrum out on there, put a bit of shoulder pads on, get out there, you'll be fine. So, but she just loves watching George and I play rugby. So, yeah, I think it's just probably a lot of thinking time over the next 4 weeks.
uh, the minute you get your head right, everything will follow, mate.
Yeah, but I mean, like as you say, I've invested time elsewhere from the rugby pitch, so like running has really helped, and um, like work, I really
Yeah.
enjoy what I do. Like, it's pretty hard not to enjoy selling sweets. So, um, like, yeah, like it's changing your outlook on life is probably um, it's quite nice. So yeah,
You there, mate? Yeah.
yeah, it just dropped out, mate.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, and also you have kept yourself busy. Fundamentally, mate, whether you realise it or not, probably all with that aim in your back of your head.
Yeah,
If
probably.
I'm being totally honest with you, probably.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not going to be a yes man to you, and I don't think your mum and dad and George and me are going to be either. But it only takes your head to get in the wrong place.
I know.
And on the other hand, it only takes you to put a shot on someone to realise you're back in town as well. So is it? No, it is, mate, isn't it? Like we laugh at that, but it's what we do. So it's just about
Yeah,
you,
but
like you said, do your
there's one
pre-season,
flaw.
mate.
Yeah, there's one
See
flaw in
how
that
it
though.
feels.
I've only ever put one shot on in my life, John. and that was on Tom Griffin Hamburg. So, um, yeah, I doubt I'll be putting any shots on the field.
Out.
Yeah.
Aye, mate.
Remember,
So,
he could have died from that tackle.
well, he didn't though, did he? So it's a good job. Plus,
No,
I was available for a foreigner, obviously, when I. So if worst comes to
yeah,
worst, I can make things
yeah,
happen. So it's come to that chat, mate, because your future is still slightly undecided, isn't it? You're loving your job. You and me are really good and enjoying life, mate, getting about, and rugby's a real possibility for you after a bleak couple of years with it. So,
yeah, mate.
left questions, Charles. Any pre-match superstitions, mate?
Uh, yeah, I always go for a number two in the sheds. And that's it.
It's a needs must that.
I just always feel the need before I play.
Yeah, mate. If that's how the nerves show, that's how they show, innit?
It's
People,
just
some people are sick. You need a shit. They're up with
yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
probably from the 10 pints from the night before, but yeah.
yeah, that doesn't help, does it? The Guinness and
No.
that. At least you can do 10 pints, mate.
I mean, I spell half of them, but yeah.
10's 10, innit? So this next word, mate, is different for everybody, definition wise. So the toughest player you played with and against, you might not know who they are, but you might remember position or club or wherever you was at the time you played with and against them.
Um, yeah, the toughest, like, I remember, like, a bloke that I could not move was we played against Bishop Burton at university, and they had quite a few lads who played for Hull, and they got some pretty big like guys in who went on to play like championship rugby and stuff. And the Werner Polar's cousin played number eight for them. And I remember him like picking and going, and I was like, I'm just gonna have to hit him in his ankles. Gonna have to hit him in his ankles. I hit him in his ankle, and I turned to dust. And I remember just thinking like, all right, okay. And I looked up
These
and I could just see
laces
his
next
heels.
time.
Like, yeah, and I was just like, fair enough. So he's probably the toughest player um, played against. And then toughest player I've played with, I think it's pretty tough. Well, I'm not going to say it's pretty tough. It's hard to say because I think um, I think that the toughest lad that I grew up with was probably Mike Jones. Um, like never shy from work, never shy from like carrying big hits, anything like that. Does everything you want him to, and he's got one hell of a right dig on him as well. So yeah, probably Mike.
So your favourite away ground you played at?
Um, it's probably come from one of the when playing in Leeds. So North Ribblesdale in Settle. So it's like in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales. It's really picturesque. And I know quite a lot of the lads that play there. So always stay after and have a good bus trip back and stuff. So that's probably my favourite away ground pitch is absolutely shite, but the atmosphere is always nice there. So probably North Ribblesdale.
If you could tell a younger Chad something, mate, what would it be?
Pull your finger out. No, I think I think just probably back yourself a bit more. Um, and yeah, probably just probably 10% harder. Doesn't have to be all out, but just a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably it.
Right, mate. And now you're into the booze and you smash a Guinness or two. The microphone's in your hand, mate. What are you giving us?
Um, Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield.
What's with that song now? Like, young
I've
lads were singing it on the way to Twickenham, mate. Like, it's not been out for donks.
I've been on it since uni, so it was our university tour song. So
Was it?
you had to memorize it.
Right.
So and it's just always been that. But if someone sings that, then probably Valerie by the Zootons, not the Amy Winehouse version out of the vocals for that.
Yeah. Mike's quite passionate about the Zootons version. It's like a backup of mine as well. That he fumes when you put the wine house one on.
Yeah,
Like once and he's angry about it.
only one version.
And it come to that time, mate, if you're willing, for a 1 to 15 that you've played with over the years.
Yeah. So there's two props from uni that I'm gonna put here. So one, the lad Tom Snare, gonna put him at Loosehead, because the lads, if anyone listens from uni on this, Snare took his scrum hat off and said in a very high pitched posh voice, "I can't play tight head in front of the whole rugby club," and it was close to tears. So if I put him at tight head, then I think he'll probably send me an angry text. Um, Hooker, I've not played with him, but I trained with him at school, if that counts. Johnny Matthews played Scotland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched him play for Sedge and Hull as well, and he was like light years ahead of everyone on the pitch every time he played. So yeah, tight head is a lad called Dom Ardman. He's currently playing at Ampthill. He's played for Western Force. Played him at uni. Um, really nice fella, absolute unit. He came to us as a fresher, and he was like 115 kilos and like 6 foot whatever. And he was like, "I'm thinking about playing rugby league." I was like, "Don't. You go to tighter." And he absolutely ripped it up. Became first team captain in his second year, which was pretty cool.
Now
Um,
win the money.
yeah, yeah. Now he's having loads of brown envelopes at Amphill. Um, and then second rows, probably I've got quite a few people listed the second row, but I'd put Johnny Preston in the row. Think he's an all-round knob, but he's a good footballer.
In the
Um,
boiling house, Johnny lad.
yeah, I'm not putting him in the back row because that's where he wants to be.
Yeah.
I want to put him in there. I want someone to punch straight through their second row, straight on his nose. But yeah, probably put Johnny Preston in there. Um, and then the other one is a lad from uni called Luke Coughlin, um, who, yeah, he was just like a man mountain and led from the front. And what he punched someone away at Northumbria. He was a proper enforcer, and their front teeth bent inwards. It was absolutely minging. Um, so like I don't know how he did that, but yeah, probably put Luke Coughlin in there. Put Tom Mack in the back row. Um, like if he actually, properly looked after himself and
Yeah.
whatever he could have played silly level,
Yeah.
like he was freakish. Um, so yeah, I'd probably put Tom Mack there. Uh, probably put probably put Tom Mack at 7 because he was pretty good over the ball. Um, at 6, I'd probably put Mike Jones at 6. Um, just because, yeah, he probably needs to be in there. And when you watch him, it speaks for itself. At number 8, there's two up for this. So there's a lad from uni called Chris Johnson who JP played against and described him as Leonidas from This Is Sparta. Like shredded to the nines, rapid, like massive. And if you gave him a carry from 8 or off 9, off 10, wherever, he was getting through the line and just scuttling blokes. Like, and you'd be like, oh, it was actually just like terrifying to watch. Um, but from a number 8 footballing perspective, you're probably going to make this. But I'd probably put you up there, John, from all round skill
Well,
set.
I thought you were going to say Jeff, me.
I didn't really play open age with Jeff, and Jeff is up there as a footballer. But like, he played some years at Colts when I didn't, or I was at Hull or whatever for my final year and stuff. So, um, yeah, Jeff's an honourable mention. But from a footballing and grub aspect, I think you just take it from the amount of sly punches you've given me in training.
Just a dick, bro.
Yeah,
As I say,
yeah.
for the
You've
footballing
got
aspect.
you've got to have a grub at 8. and you fit the bill. 9 is Ev Simons.
Yeah,
Um, like grew up with Ev, always knew he's a really good player. But when you play with him, it's just easy. I think I only played a couple of games with him, but yeah, like just different levels. Probably why he went on to have a really successful rugby league career at hooker.
yeah,
So yeah, 10 played with. I was really lucky at uni to play with some good tens. Um, but I'll probably give it to Mr. Blobby himself and put my brother in there. Um, yeah, played a few games together, and after the lads at Twickenham, probably playing with George for the Wids is my favourite memory. Um, yeah, that's probably my favourite playing memory because it's quite special. Um, and then 12, I'm gonna put Chris Scoey at 12, not 13, where he normally played. But
yeah,
um, yeah, I'm just getting him in because he was class. He was different
yeah,
gravy when he played. Literally do anything. Swiss Army knife. Could play him at 6, and he'd probably have a stormer.
yeah.
Um,
And he would, yeah,
so, um, and for a lad that went to Liverpool College, he was double hard as well in his rugby. Um, Never took a backward step. And then at 13 is James Poland, who I played with at university. He played Sid Cup, did play for Blackheath and played for Saracens Academy. Um, and he was like different, like how he ran with the ball. His football IQ was like off the chart, and watching him and playing with him was yeah really good. And then fullback for me is a lad called Robbie Davidson, who plays at Wharfdale. Played with him at uni, lived with him. Um, yeah, he's a proper moody Yorkshireman, but he's actually quite good on the piss and pretty good at rugby as well. So put Rob in there, and then the wingers, I'll probably put Pock in there on one wing. Because when I was first coming through, um, Pock was captain, and it was just really really nice, really warming. Um, and he's played really good level, and you could tell that when you played with him. And it's just his calmness, and obviously coming back from uni, being put into the ones, and then um, Pock was just kind of. I'd be given the games where we knew we were going to get beat, and Pock would even in those games where everything's going wrong, he'd just be really calm. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, put Pock in there, and then the final winger. Um, I'd probably give it. I'm going to give a mention to Leddy. I know he's played 10 towards the back end of his career, but when I grew up and first started playing, he was a winger,
yeah.
and he was always really, top of the points chart for pretty much every league he's ever been in. Absolute freak that he can still play now. I know he keeps saying that he's broken, but mental. But I'm gonna pick just because if I don't pick him, he would probably have a go at me, and he'd be really good on the bus home. Is my mate James Buckland. Um, he's actually all right at rugby. Thinks he's world class, but he's not. But yeah, he'd be pretty good at leading the socials on the way home. So I'd probably give it Bookers. And then on the bench, I'd put my mate Ollie, just because he can play every position, and he's going because he's played prop, hooker, second row, back row, 10, 12, and all.
Man
He's
after me,
literally
all
played
of
everything.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, but he's about 7 stone piss wet for